Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy. Today I've got something a bit different for you, but before we get into it, I need to tell you a little bit of a story. So, I have a close friend called Al, who I've known for a while now, and last year his father very sadly passed away. Now, I didn't know this, but it turns out in the past he was also interested in model railways too, and had a lot of old Hornby stuff from the 70s and 80s. So my friend was sorting through all this stuff, and knowing that I run this channel, he brought everything over to me so that I could take a look. He and his family have very kindly allowed me to hold on to some of it, and I've been going through all the unsorted boxes to try and group everything back together. Now, this all happened last year, so it's taken me a while to get round to making this video, but a lot of it is in really good condition, and so today I thought it might be interesting to take a look at these vintage model railway items. Partly out of curiosity, but also just to see how much the hobby has changed over the last few decades. Again, thank you so much to Al and his family for letting me make this video, and let's get into it. So this is the first box that I've got to look at, starting with the paperwork that's on top here. This is just sort of like a Loco instruction and maintenance manual, I think. Just the sort of like the paperwork you get with Locos nowadays as well. Although there is it looks like a dealer sort of list inside there. But yeah, these are all the sort of like the instructions, like the, kind of like the instructions we get nowadays with all the pictures and stuff. This is the version that there was back then, and this I think is pretty much the same. It's just got a couple of different Locos on the front, but yeah, the instructions generally I think tend to be the same, and so it goes over the Ringfield motors there at the bottom as well. And so yeah, these are just duplicates. There's something about power and control there, and yeah, another one of the dealer lists. So yeah, so moving on next, I thought these were really cool. These are catalogues. This is the 1978 catalogue. I actually think I have that red Ginty somewhere as well. I think my granddad gave me one of those ages and ages ago. So yeah, I'm not going to go through this page by page. I'm just going to sort of very quickly flick through. Although do let me know if you would like me to go through page by page in like a separate video perhaps as a bonus thing. But yeah, you can see some of the Locos that they released. Well, I'm assuming this isn't everything that they released this year, but everything that was in their range at that time. But yeah, certainly there is quite a wide variety of stuff that they've got. I suppose kind of similar to what they have now. There's a mix of LMS, Great Western stuff. These are the the LNER teak coaches that we're all familiar with. Lots of wagons that I'm sure we've all seen, and yeah, then kind of moving on to the track and the accessories. And so we've got lots of signals here and the switches and buildings and stuff like that. So yeah, that's so I just thought it was interesting. It's like a look back in time, isn't it? And then this is another catalogue. This is from the following year, so this would be 79. A slightly more fancy cover there, but we're kicking things off big with the 01 in here. So this, if you don't know, this was like Hornby's early attempt at DCC, I guess. It's not really, but it was a digital control system, and I have to admit I don't really know a huge amount about it. But yeah, interesting to see that was when that was released, or at least it made it into the catalogue that year. Then we've got some of the sets, so sort of like the the train packs that you could get, and we'll be maybe taking a look at one of these later on as well. Then track as well. We've got lots of track to look through as well. We've got coaches as well, and if you look on the right here, I think there's also like a coach lighting sort of thing, which is kind of similar to the lighting kits they do now. But yeah, lots of coaches in here. Again, more buildings and stuff. So yeah, sort of as you get towards the back, there's more of the accessories. Talking about accessories and stuff, this is like a signal gantry. I couldn't find one of the signal arms, one of the posts to go on there, but yeah, it's mostly there. I just thought that was interesting. There was also this kind of like bridge that I pieced together as well. It was all in different parts, so I think this is how it's supposed to look. Well, I basically put the pillars on there and then the two green side pieces as well. So yeah, that's a kind of a nice little thing. There is one other bridge in there as well, or rather a viaduct, which is this brick viaduct you can see. Yeah, I actually really like this. It's a southern viaduct, but yeah, I've got a kind of an idea of something I could do with this in the future, so stay tuned for that at some point when I eventually get round to doing that. And then in the box, really, we just have loads of track. There's sort of, again, all this stuff was kind of loose, and I've just sort of paired it all together, so or yeah, grouped it all together. So we've got a load of curves here. here that I've just sort of rubber banded together. And I think there's actually more curves in here as well. Yeah, loads more of curves. And then I think there's also some straight pieces. Oh no, we've got more curves. So yeah, lots of curves, slightly bigger curves in this instance by the look of it. And then there's like a few sort of platform pieces as well. I mean, I had some of these as a kid, so it's interesting to know they've been around for a while. These are sort of like the things that I associate with my childhood. But yeah, and then there were some straight pieces of track as well, and sort of like some crossings underneath this as well. Yeah, you can see there's some crossings there if I just take the straight track out of the way, actually. And yeah, you can see this is the there's some small crossings, there's some larger crossings. You know, I don't know if you really see these in model railways. I guess they're not really that realistic. I don't know how often they are actually used, but yeah, I sort of feel like you don't really see set track crossings anymore. And then in the box there was just sort of some other loose bits and pieces, like, you know, bits of fencing, like sort of loose bridge piers that I don't really know. There wasn't anything that sort of it looked like they kind of joined to or anything. So yeah, there's some other stuff in there. But now we get on to the second box, and this is essentially just track in this box. We've got like one of the uncoupling sort of things, and then a couple of points here. This point in particular has got like one of the really old sort of switches on it. Like you can see it still works all fine. And yeah, that's the it's sort of like got these terminals on the side as well, so I don't know if they would be used for like powering different sections or stuff, but yeah, that's interesting. A lot of more loose points in there as well, and another little bit of short track, and then we've got some sort of larger curved points as well. And these were particularly interesting because if you notice the switch rails that actually move on this, they're sort of like a duller colour. So I don't know if they're like different metal, or if this is all like steel track as opposed to the nickel that we tend to use nowadays. But yeah, I just found that interesting. And of course, it's got one of these really sort of large, chunky switches on the side as well. Something that I did think was really interesting though is the way that the points were all packaged in the past. And I've actually gone through, and all these packages were empty. These like sort of card sleeves. I just thought it was a, you know, it's a really sort of smart way of actually like packaging up points. And so I know everything kind of tends to use plastic nowadays, but all the sort of instructions and all the information is all on the outside, and then yeah, the point just fits into the sleeve. And so all these sleeves were empty when I got this box, and I just sort of spent some time going through and matching up all of the loose points that I could find, you know, to make sure that there was right hand points went into a sleeve for a right hand point, and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting. You can see kind of the diagram there, and all the sort of the text and stuff, and I'm sure you can pause that if you want to have a look. But yeah, these are the points that are inside, and again, they kind of have that dull. The switch rails are just a little bit more dull there. And so yeah, you can see there are absolutely loads of these, and I mean, it's all in really good condition. Like, it's not even like the card sleeves are like stained or torn or anything like that. So yeah, it's all really fantastic. And then we've also got some of the larger curved points as well. So this is sort of what would have been the curved points would have come in as well. So yeah, just thought that was really interesting. Next up, we've got a couple of controllers to look at, and yeah, these are still in their original boxes as well, although you can see that the plug is slightly sticking out of the top of this one. And if you're interested as well, you can just see there that the price for this was £14.50, so I suppose you can still get controllers for about that price these days, but I'm imagining this is probably, or at the time, was a much higher quality controller. So yeah, that's just interesting. And if I can get it out of the box here, you can see that it's sort of like a nice sort of metal die cast. These are the H&M controllers, I believe, which I think Hornby sort of took over. I'm assuming they weren't Hornby at the time, but if you think of like the HM 2000 and the 6000 and those are the sort of the big controllers that Hornby do nowadays. But yeah, it's got the big dial on the front there, which controls the speed and the direction, and then we've also got these switches as well, which control the wavelength of the DC power and also the resistance as well. So that's just interesting. On the back then we have the two little terminal screws here. You just you wind your wires around those and then just screw it all in, and of course the power cable as well. And then we've got a second controller as well. This is a smaller, it says the multi-pack DC control. I found this really interesting actually. You'll notice the plug isn't sticking out of this one, and there's a very good reason for that, which will become apparent in just a second, which is because there is no plug. But yeah, essentially it's the same kind of design. You've got that big nice sort of control dial there, which feels very good, and it's very sturdy. And you can see on the back here we've got two more terminals to go to the track, but there is no power cable, and that's because of these two little things here. There's these two sort of little sockets on the side. And if I just rummage around inside the box, we've got a little bit of paperwork there, probably a warranty or a manual of some sort. And then there's these two little pins. These, I'm assuming they're like little brass pins, but if I just pick the first controller up again, you can see it's also got two of those sockets on the sides as well. And so if I put the pins in there, they push in. And then I can take the second controller and they join together, and those pins actually transfer the power. So you only need to have one power socket to plug your controller into, and then you can use this as like an add-on. And I think you could just keep adding on controllers. I don't know how many you'd get before it would start to kind of like drop out or anything, but I just thought that was a really clever like design. That's just such a smart thing. And it would be really interesting to see like a company make something similar like that today for a DC controller. Although I suppose they don't want you to do that, do they? Because you know, they want you to buy another full controller in order to control your trains. But yeah, so that's a couple of controllers. That again, I just thought that was a really cool thing to look at, these sort of older vintage controllers. Something a little bit more exciting now, we have the Hornby electric train set BR Express Freight. And so yeah, I will admit that the box for this is a bit battered. It's about the only thing really that is a bit sort of you know, worse for wear, but I'll remove the plastic there so you can see things a little bit better. And yeah, you do get quite a lot with this set actually. So you get quite a lot of curves and straights there to make a nice big circuit. And then there's a couple of points there as well, so you can create either a loop or some sidings, which is always nice for a beginner train set. I think there's a level crossing that is missing from that space at the top there, but you also get a couple of buffers and also the uncoupling ramps there. There are a few wagons as well, for example the coal wagon, and then we've got this shell tanker as well. There's a mineral lime wagon as well, which I can't say I've ever seen before. And then there's also the Southern Railways cattle van. The prime pork, the green prime pork van, I'm sure a lot of you will recognise. I've got a few of those myself, and they've made appearances on the channel. And then there's a little brake van there at the end as well. But that isn't all, because we've also got a North Stand wagon, which I do have one of those myself. You've probably seen it. And then possibly my favourite is the McVitie's biscuit van. So yeah, I had no idea that this was a thing, but apparently it is, so that's really cool. The most exciting thing in this set, of course, though, is the Loco, which is a Class 47 diesel. I mean, obviously this is quite an outdated tooling now, it's a little bit old-fashioned, but I'm guessing at the time that this was like a really sort of, you know, this was Hornby's latest model, or, you know, their latest tooling for this. And looking at the front there, it does actually look like that there are lights behind the numbers and in the cab there. So yeah, let's see if this Loco runs. And I've got it on the rolling road, and you can see I've also got just beside it and plugged into the rolling road is the controller that we were looking at earlier. So I'm going to try using this. I have tested it out on other Locos, so I know that it works, and I'm turning up the power now. And unfortunately, it looks like the Class 47 isn't working, which is a real shame actually. So I'm going to try it in reverse as well. I don't know if that's going to make any difference. I doubt it, but yeah, there's nothing happening here. So yeah, that is quite a shame actually. I guess just sitting in a box for all that time hasn't really done it any good. Externally, it looks absolutely fine. I mean, you know, but you can see here I'm trying to give it a nudge just to make sure that it is on the rails, or you know, and it's getting power, but no, it's not moving at all. So yeah, that is a bit of a shame, but I think it is just a Ringfield motor in there, so maybe I'll have a look at this in a future video and see if I can get it working again. I don't know, let me know, would you guys be interested in seeing that? I don't actually know if I can get it working, but I'll have a go, I think, and see what I can do. We've got a few more Locos to look at here as well, and I'm going to start off with the smallest of them, which is this one. It's a Class 08 shunter in the British Railways green, and the box art there looks really, really nice with that little card there with the sort of the drawing behind it. So yeah, and then if we have a look here, you can see that this is R156, so yeah, quite a low number there, quite a low product number in comparison to some of the ones that we see nowadays. So yeah, I'm going to try and open the box really carefully, because again, this is in really nice condition. And so if we slide it out along with the card that's in there as well, and if we take the card away now, we can see there is the actual Loco. And so yeah, there you go. And again, it's a very simple Loco. I've actually got one of these in the British Railways blue, I think, as well. So it's nice to sort of see one in the green. They're very simple models compared to today's standards, but yeah, I think they were, you know, at the time they were very good. Although comparing it to the drawing on the box art, I wonder, you know, obviously they've drawn that based on an actual Class 08 rather than the model. So I wonder if people were disappointed when they got this model, or if they just, you know, if they thought it was a fantastic representation of it at the time, because compared to today's standards, it does look a little bit chunky. Anyway, we have it on the rolling road again, and with the power turned up, you can see that this does in fact run. So yeah, just to prove that the controller does work, and this Loco is actually a really nice smooth runner, which is incredible considering it's been sat in a box for the best part of however many years, I don't know, decades at least I would have thought. But yeah, it's nice to see it running. You can see it's a nice smooth runner, and if I just power it up in the opposite direction as well, and you can see again it runs really nicely. So yeah, at least we've got one Loco that works today, so we know that the Class 08 is a good runner, and yeah, I'm actually really impressed with how smooth that is, actually, to be honest. So yeah, big tick there from me. So moving on to the second Loco now, and this is another diesel. It is a Class 25, and this is in the British Railways green. Again, we've got very nice box art there. And then having a look at this, the product number is R072, so even lower actually. And like I said, this is a Class 25 in the British Railways green. So again, the box is in very good condition. I'm going to carefully try to open this so that I don't damage it, and yeah, just slide it out. But it is amazing how well this stuff has survived over the years. And yeah, if I just sort of slowly tip it out here, and we can have a look. If I remove the product card there, and you can see there is the model, and it's got a little bit of polystyrene there just sort of hanging around the bogie, but yeah, it's a really nice little model actually, this. Again, you know, obviously it's very simple, but I think this sort of does go to show that, you know, if you really are strapped for cash, you could try finding sort of second-hand models from this kind of era, you know, for probably not very much on eBay or something like that, and you know, they are passable to a certain extent. If you really wanted a model railway, you could do that, and I do like the mouldings, especially here on the roof as well, the grills for the fans and everything there. Yeah, very nice. So let's get this onto the rolling road, and we'll see if this actually runs, shall we? So here we go. We've got the controller plugged in again, and I'm just turning up the power, and actually it is working. I don't know if you can see that, probably not on the wide shot, but if I give you a close-up here, you can see that the wheels are turning on the bogie there. And yeah, it is vibrating a little bit. I think that's just because the back wheel isn't quite on the rolling road properly. I've not lined it up correctly. But yeah, it's great to see that this works actually, as well as the Class 08. So we've got two Locos that we know at least runs. But it's good that these models have survived sitting in a box all this time, and they basically come out of that box and work pretty much perfectly straight away. The final Loco to look at today then is the only steam engine we have, and this is the 460B12, and yeah, it's a tender engine as well, so it comes from Hobby Toys in Loughborough apparently. And yeah, I should say as well, all these were made in England as well, which is interesting. And also I just thought the price here was interesting as well, £11.50 for a Loco for a tender engine as well. So yeah, I think if you were going to try and buy a B12 today, you'd certainly be adding, well, you'd be moving the decimal point over to the right at least by one place, wouldn't you? So here is the Loco. It is in the LNER black, or rather the Northeastern black. Quite a simple livery, but I think it's done really well. And you know, certainly the printing on the side of the cab there and on the tender, as I just get this out of the box, is really nice. But yeah. No tender pickups on this, which is obviously why the tender just sort of hooks onto the back there, so you are relying basically on the driving wheels for all of the power. But yeah, it also, you can see that the handrails and the sort of the dial has been picked out there in silver. Actually, I don't know if that was like that on the model originally or whether that's been done after the fact, but yeah, it's certainly a nice little effect. And you can see we've got metal whistles as well, and like I said, the printing on the side of the cab and the tender is done very well, and you know, it's sort of up to scratch, isn't it? So let's get this onto the rolling road as well and see if we can get a third Loco working as well. So we'll turn the power up, and immediately you can see that the Loco has sprung into life. So that is really brilliant, and yeah, it's actually a really nice sort of little runner, really. And I'm sort of amazed these Locos perform as well as they do, having sat in a box. Yes, I know the Class 47 didn't work, but the others all have, and I was sort of expecting them to maybe, you know, work a bit, but they would sort of stutter, or it would sound like something was caught in the motor. But actually, they're relatively consistent and well made, I guess. But yeah, certainly as we turn the power down there, and I'll just flip it into reverse as well, and we'll see, yep, it does indeed run in reverse as well. And yeah, there's no surprises there considering how well it ran in forwards. Now, I am just going to slow the Loco down again because I want to have a try on the wave switch here. So as I switch this to half instead, I think what this will do is it'll make the Loco run slower. So I'm just going to flick the controller on, and yeah, you can see that the wheels are turning, but very, very slowly now. And that's absolutely incredible. I mean, that almost rivals some of my more modern Locos today. So yeah, which is incredible considering that this thing has been sat in a box for several years and is basically doing this straight out of the box again. Yeah, so I think that switch on the controller basically alters the DC waves. I think it reduces that down, and so it allows the Loco to run a lot more slowly and in a lot more controlled fashion. So that is really fascinating, partly to see just how the controller works, but it does show that even with older Locos you can get fantastic running. So there we go, that's pretty much everything that we're going to look at today. I know this video has been a bit different to normal, but I do think it has been interesting to have a look at this sort of stuff. And it's great that we've got some of the Locos running as well. Who knows, maybe I will do a vintage running session on the layout at some point. But yeah, let me know down in the comments if that is something that you would like to see. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel, or maybe consider becoming a member if you want to see extra bonus content from behind the scenes. For now though, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!